Good morning, everybody. Hello, hello.
Hello.
Here comes everybody. Just going to wait a few more minutes as I get everybody in. Morning. Nice crowd. Okay, happy Tuesday, everybody. So some of you guys were a little surprised, and I guess you weren't paying attention that we do not have class on Thursday. Thursday's the day that you have so much work to do that rather than making it like homework, I'm giving you Thursday at this time to do your work. So we'll only meet the one time. So we meet Tuesdays, and I'm so glad all of you are here. There's 26 of you, which is amazing. And you know what? Tuesdays will be good for you because I'm going to reinforce all the information that you're going to be doing in the chapter. And we still got more. Look at this. Now we're up to 27 people. We got more people than are registered right now. Amazing. I don't know how that happens, but so just to reinforce, we are only meeting on Tuesdays at this time. And on the Tuesdays when we meet, I'm going to go over all the stuff that you're going to be doing in the chapter. And hopefully I can make it fun and make it understandable for you. The first thing that I want to discuss is last week's assignment. So the discussion boards, for some reason, a lot of you guys did not follow through with all the steps of the discussion boards. And so this first one last week was to get you to understand what you're going to be doing for future assignments. So there's two things. There's assignments and there's discussions. They're two separate things. Discussions are where you post in the board, then you have to answer other people's posts, and then you go back to your post. That's what this discussion. So there's three parts to that. So a lot of you guys were great about posting about yourself, and it was awesome to see your pictures and learn about you and your theater and your hairdressing and winning songs, and it was awesome. But you didn't do the rest of it. So I graded you very easily on this first one, but you have to do all the parts of the discussion, all parts. So you do your initial, you do the two extra parts that come along, and then you go back to your post. So it's a 3-part, and you have a discussion this week. So get it right. So you have your first post, then your second post, and then your third post this time, which is different than the assignments. When we get to the chapter with an assignment, we'll discuss the assignment. So you got your feet wet. Wait, did anybody have a question?
Yeah, I did. Okay, so what if, I'm so sorry. What if you, like, someone doesn't comment under your, because I know you have to comment under what someone commented under yours. So what if someone doesn't comment under yours?
So if somebody doesn't comment under yours, just make a comment like backing yourself up. And then that way you get the grade, because what happens is there's this thing called like speed grading where it shows all that you've done. So that's how you're graded. So I see your initial post, I see what you did on everybody else, and then I see your, how do we have 31 participants and only 25 people in this class? I don't know. Whatever.
So I just back myself up after I comment on mine?
Oh, is that why? Because that's why I'm like, how do we have so many people? There's 31. Okay, so when I look at it, I do read all the posts in order, but in order to grade, and you'll see this week isn't fluffy the way last week was about yourself. This is actually about conditioning, and you're gonna have to write all about learning and classical conditioning and all of that stuff. So that's the problem with being able to do your writing. So you have to write something, even if somebody didn't comment on your post, write again, because that's what I'm going to see.
Hear you? I can't really hear you because there's someone else unmuted.
Yeah, somebody's
so
really loud.
Oh,
yeah.
sorry. Okay, can everybody mute, please? There you go. That's better. Okay, so the short answer again, you probably didn't hear, is that no matter what, you have to do all three parts. Even if somebody doesn't write on yours, answer it anyway, because in order to grade you, I see all your posts in one thing. So if I don't see a response, then you're not getting a grade for it. And I don't know if you guys remember, but I did tell you the rubric for the main discussion posts and stuff. So you have a total of 40 points that you're going to get on this discussion. Our last discussion was just a 10-point fluffernutter. And so you got points. If you did it all, you got your 10 points. And if you did part of it, I gave you partial credit, but really just try to do all of your stuff. Does anybody have any questions about that before we move on to week 2 learning?
Yeah, I just want to make sure I got it right. So it's your post, comment on somebody else's post, and then another comment on your post. 3. Oh, so 2.
Actually,
okay, so it's 4.
It's 4, but the second part is a 2. So you post, and this week it's all about learning. We'll go through it. I'll show it to you. I'll share my screen and I'll show you what you're due. But you're going to do a significant post on learning. Then you have to comment on 2 people's learning. And then you have to respond to what somebody wrote about your learning on your post. So it's 3 parts, but it's actually 4 posts, just to confuse you. Any other questions about that? Okay, so if not, I am going to share my screen. Where is that? All right, we'll go here. We might have an issue again with the sound. Who remembers what I have to do for the sound in order to enable the sound? Who remembers?
I think we just all have to be quiet and you just play the video, I guess. I don't know.
Didn't we have an issue last time that it didn't show? I thought we had an issue. All right, well, we'll find out, won't we? Okay, so let's go to this week's module. Oh, no, you know what? We'll go here. All right, let's go to week 2. That way I can walk you through today what we're doing. So just so you know what you're doing is you're doing a study plan on learning. I'll show you what that looks like. So you get started. Whoops, student view. Let's go to your view. You're going through why it matters and showing what you know, which is like a pre-test to see what you already know. Then you're going to do classical conditioning, operant conditioning, and other types of learning. And then per usual, you are getting quizzed. If you don't have your access code for the book, that's where you enter the access code when you're ready to do when you're ready for the quiz. So for the first, like, I believe it's 3 weeks, you can do them for free. Week number 4, you have to have the access code. You will not be able to take any of the quizzes, and that will affect your grade. So that's why it's super important that you have the access code from your book. So you can always do this, but you can't do your quiz, and your quiz is kind of your, your grade for the chapter. So that's what learning is. Let's go back. Obviously learning, then your quiz. You're having the discussion. So I'm going to show you what you have to do for discussion. So you're going to write about, with at least 8 substantial sentences about classical conditioning, operant conditioning, and observational or latent learning. Step 1. Step 2, comment on 2 classmates' posts, 2 in 5 sentences, and then go back to your original post. Okay? Got to do all these parts in order to get the grade. Comprendo? Okay, good. All right, so to this chapter that we're doing this week is on learning, okay? And so we are talking about Pavlov and classical conditioning. Who knows what Pavlov taught us? Who remembers what Pavlov's experiment was? Somebody tell me.
Didn't he do an experiment like on the dogs where like they salivate every time the bell rings?
Yep. So he taught us about classical conditioning. Who knows what operant conditioning is? Who knows what operant was? B.F. Skinner? Does anybody remember what operant is? He had a mouse in a box, and it pressed a lever. It would just be running around the box, paying no attention, and then it would accidentally bump into a lever, and a piece of food would come down, and it would be like, yippee, I got some food, that's cool. And then the second time it's running around the box, and it bumped into the lever, and it got some food again, and it was like, oh, wait a second, maybe if I press the lever, I will get food. Getting that food would be known as an R word. What's the R word?
Reward.
Reward, exactly. So when we talk about classical conditioning, we're talking about changing behavior one way. When we talk about operant conditioning, we're talking about changing the behavior using reward and punishment. So we're going to cover that stuff. I want to show you some videos that kind of break it down in really layman terms, and some fun videos. We'll watch like a video about operant conditioning. Then we're going to watch a clip of The Office that used operant conditioning. Then we're going to watch a video about, we're starting with classical and The Office. And then we're going to go to operant conditioning and Big Bang Theory. So we're going to watch videos for like, the next like 10-ish minutes. I'll stop in between and we can discuss. And I can go through it. I don't know if this will work, but I have there's no way to write notes on a board, so I have to make it my own. So you guys should have like a notebook, because if I teach you something that is something you think you know or need to know, you should be writing it down just like you would in class. So let's watch this first YouTube. Let's hope the sound works. Who knows? We'll find out. You need to give me a yes or a no. Amanda, can you let me know if you can hear this? You can hear it?
No, I can't hear it at all, actually.
You can't? See, that's what
No.
I'm saying. I think
I can hear it.
You can hear it?
I can hear it, but it's very like soft.
Yeah.
It's not as loud.
All right, wait. All right, I'm gonna skip the ad, but I'm gonna stop.
I'm Brian Collins, and today's
Okay.
episode is on.
Could you hear Brian Collins?
I could.
You could. Okay. It's. I think it's pretty loud. I don't know how else. Maybe I'll make my computer louder. All right. Let me know if you cannot hear this, okay?
From Pavlov's theory of classical conditioning. If you're having trouble studying and tired of Quizlet, check
I
out
can hear it really good.
www.learnmytest.com.
Yeah.
The best way to study is taking practice tests, and Learn My Test helps you build college-level practice tests without writing a single question. So before we get started, I'm just going to review what a stimulus is. So stimulus is anything in your environment that's presented to a person or an animal, and the response is the animal or human's response or reaction to that stimulus. To understand Pavlov's theory, you need to know the following terms. The first is the unconditioned stimulus, US, conditioned response, UR, neutral stimulus, NS, conditioned stimulus, CS, and conditioned response, CR. The video will go over all of these so you know them well. First thing that Pavlov did was he presented a piece of meat to dogs. And of course, like most hungry dogs, they would salivate to the piece of meat or drool when they saw the piece of meat. The unconditioned stimulus in the previous case is the meat, because the meat produces a natural reaction from the dog by the dog salivating. So anything that something in your environment produces a reaction that's not a learned reaction, that's called an unconditioned stimulus. Remember that an unconditioned stimuli is something that you don't have to learn. So you don't have to learn to feel pain after you get pricked with a pin. You don't have to learn to get sick after being exposed to bacteria or a virus. Food, bacteria, viruses getting pricked are all examples of unconditioned stimuli. The reaction to an unconditioned stimulus is called the unconditioned response, or UR. For example, the UR for getting exposed to bacteria is getting sick, or the UR for getting pricked with a pin is feeling pain. Pavlov rang a bell in front of the dogs in his study. The dogs did not have a response to the ringing bell. The bell at this point is a neutral stimulus, or NS. A neutral stimulus, or NS, does not produce a response. If I see a tree outside and don't pay much attention to it, this would be a neutral stimulus, or NS. If I see a chair at a cafe and don't react much to it, that would also classify as a neutral stimulus. Pavlov presented the meat to the dog and rang the bell at the same time, so the dog would associate the sound of the bell with the meat and eventually salivate to the sound of the bell. Acquisition is the part when the unconditioned stimulus and the conditioned stimulus are presented together to produce the conditioned response. Acquisition is basically when the conditioned response is learned. Eventually, Pavlov took the meat away and just rang the bell by itself. The dog would salivate to only the sound of the bell. At this point, the bell is no longer the neutral stimulus because it produces a reaction from the dog. It is the conditioned stimulus, or CS. At this point, Pavlov has taught his dogs to salivate to the sound of a bell. The dog's salvation response to the bell or the conditioned stimulus is the conditioned response or CR. So any response to a conditioned stimulus is a conditioned response or CR. It makes sense that if you ring the bell and don't show the dog the meat, that the dog is going to stop associating the bell with the meat. And that's what extinction is. So extinction is when the conditioned response stops because the conditioned stimulus hasn't been presented with the unconditioned stimulus for a while. Let's say that you ring the bell enough times without the meat that the dog forgets to salivate the bell 30 times in a row. But let's say the 31st time the dog salivates to the bell. This is what's called spontaneous recovery. Spontaneous recovery is when the conditioned stimulus produces the conditioned response after the conditioned response has stopped. So let's break classical conditioning down using an example. Let's say you ate a cheeseburger with bacteria in it, and the bacteria in the cheeseburger made you sick. And then you were no longer wanted to eat cheeseburgers again because you associated the bacteria in the cheeseburger with all cheeseburgers. So in this example, the bacteria in the cheeseburger is what's causing you to get sick. And the unconditioned response is you getting sick to the bacteria in the cheeseburger. The unconditioned stimulus is the bacteria. The unconditioned response is you getting sick from the bacteria. Now, not all cheeseburgers you eat make you sick, but since you associated the cheeseburger or the conditioned stimulus with the bacteria, the unconditioned stimulus, and getting sick, the unconditioned response, now the cheeseburger, the conditioned stimulus, produces a sick feeling or conditioned response. Hi, my name is Brian Collin. I'm a psychology instructor and I have a PhD in educational psychology. I created Learn My Test.
Okay. So, some of the stuff that's presented in that YouTube is the stuff that's going to be in your chapter. So, the chapter is called Learning. You need to know what learning is. Learning is a change in behavior or thinking. So it doesn't have to be just behavior. It's a change in behavior or thinking that results from experience. So you are learning from conception on. When you are prenatally in your parent's belly, you are learning. So it starts right after conception and right through death. You are learning. You are having that change in behavior or thinking that results from experience. So it starts, our first type of learning is classical conditioning, which you just watched the video of. Pavlov did his experiment on digestion in dogs. He won a Nobel Prize in 1904, and it was the first time that it was proven that psychology could affect physiology, physiology being biology. So it was the first time that it was proven that psychology and physiology work together. So everybody has neutral stimuluses that go on in their lives all the time. So your first abbreviation is neutral stimulus. Neutral stimulus means that it doesn't cause a response. Your wallpaper in your house right now doesn't really cause a response. Maybe the pen that you're working with right now does not cause any responses in behavior or thinking, right? Does your pen do anything for you? No. It's a neutral stimulus. It doesn't cause a response. So when a when a dog is presented with meat, in this case, meat powder, it causes what's known as an unconditioned stimulus. Is something that happens naturally. An unconditioned stimulus, in this case, the meat for a dog is going to cause what? Salivation, right? So the dog salivating is considered an unconditioned response. So this means that none of this is learned. An unconditioned stimulus and unconditioned response are not learned. It happens naturally. Meat causes a dog to salivate naturally. They did not have to learn that. That is nature. Have you guys heard about the nature versus nurture debate? Which is more important? They're both equally important. Things that are innately learned and your biology, and things in your environment that change who you are. Nature versus nurture. When nothing is conditioned or nothing is changed in behavior, those are unconditioned. When you start changing things, experimenting, and teaching new behaviors, they become conditioned. So they paired a bell with the meat powder. They paired a bell with the meat powder, and that became a conditioned stimulus. The bell and the meat powder together became conditioned. They were changing something, and the bell and the meat powder became a conditioned stimulus. And so once the bell and the meat powder came together, they became a conditioned response. Eventually, Pavlov took the meat or the meat powder away, and the dog became conditioned, change in behavior, became conditioned to salivate to a bell. The word here of the chapter is learning. That's what happened, a learned response. That's what conditioning is. So some of the terms that you might have heard in that video that you will see in your chapter are words like acquisition. What's the root word of acquisition? What's the root word of acquisition?
Acquire.
Acquire.
What does the word acquire mean? When you acquire something, you what?
You have it.
You have it.
Have it.
You have it, you get it. So to acquire something means, in psychology terms, that you've learned something. So acquisition means that it's learned. So when we talk about a dog that is salivating to a bell, that is acquisition. It is a learned behavior. The dog gets the behavior. Another word that you heard in that was extinction. Extinction, and you'll hear about it in your chapter, the term extinction means when you keep taking away the meat powder, eventually the dog's going to stop salivating because the bell's not satisfying him. So the salivation of the dogs goes away. The behavior becomes extinct. To become extinct means to go away, right? So extinction means the behavior goes away. And then if you give the meat or the meat powder back, suddenly the behavior comes back again. And that's called spontaneous recovery. So in that video, you saw that he talked about a cheeseburger and how you get sick and how you may never want to eat a cheeseburger again. That's known as taste aversion. When you eat something that makes you sick like that, you never want it again. So that's called taste aversion. So let's watch a quick little fun video on classical conditioning thanks to The Office.
What if there was a membership that
Sorry,
gave us
ads.
time to celebrate the things that connect all of us?
Oh, damn, what's in that file? Let's reboot again. Anyway, do you want an Altoid? What do you think? In school, we learned about this scientist who trained dogs to salivate at the sound of a bell by feeding them whenever a bell rang. So for the past couple weeks, I've been conducting a similar experiment. What? One Altoid? Okay. Altoid? Sure. Antoid? Antoid? Yes. What are you doing? What? I don't know. My mouth tastes so bad all of a sudden.
All right, so we saw that in The Office. So you saw that he became conditioned to getting an Altoid every time he heard that sound on the computer, and then he psychologically and biologically felt like his mouth was dry. So his psychology affected his biology. He became conditioned, learned. There's another classical condition experiment. Has anybody heard of Baby Albert? Does anybody know what the Baby Albert experiment was? Nobody? Nobody's heard about Baby Albert?
I think it has to do with something like with the babies crying, like with the mothers. I don't know. I know it's something like that.
Yes, it is a baby and the baby cries. You're not wrong. So what happened is this little baby was this happy-go-lucky guy, little Albert, and his mom brought him to a psychologist. His last name was Watson, and Watson did the Baby Albert experiment, and he put Baby Albert in a high chair, and he brought out a little white bunny or a rat, depending on what you read, because this is many, many moons ago. And so the baby would be playing with the bunny or the rat, and Watson would bang a gong behind Baby Albert, very mean, and Baby Albert would flip out at this loud gong behind his head, and the loud sound totally scared him. And Watson did this a couple times, and eventually Baby Albert absolutely freaked out at the sight of a rabbit, a white rat, and he was totally scarred for life. Do we do these experiments today? No, we could never do these experiments. We cannot scar children. There's somebody named Albert today walking around freaked out by white fuzzy things. We don't do this. We just can't. But back then they did that. And so what happened is that just like in classical conditioning, you had a baby that had no fear of rats. So the rats were neutral and unconditioned, and then he liked the rats and wanted to play with them, so that was a normal unconditioned response. Then they paired that bunny or rat with a gong or a really loud noise that freaked the baby out, and the baby's response became a conditioned response. It would freak out whenever it would see a white rat or a white bunny, or actually what we call in stimulus generalization, baby Albert would freak out to anything white and fuzzy, to the point where he wouldn't go near Santa Claus because of his white fuzzy beard. So he generalized white and fuzzy with this loud, freakish noise that freaked him out. So that is another form of classical conditioning. Now let's go on to operant conditioning, mostly known for Skinner, but we're going to watch a quick video on operant conditioning, and then we'll watch a Big Bang Theory. Putting it into play.
Hi, my name is Olivia, and today I'm going to talk about operant conditioning. Operant conditioning is a method of learning that occurs through rewards and punishments for behavior. This new way of learning was discovered by B.F. Skinner, the father of operant conditioning. Operant conditioning can occur in two ways. One of the ways is reinforcement, which strengthens behavior, making it more likely for it to be repeated. Positive reinforcement strengthens behavior by exposing a person to a consequence they find rewarding. Negative reinforcement strengthens behavior because it stops or removes an unpleasant experience. The other way is through punishment, which decreases the rate of undesired behaviors from occurring again. Positive punishment is where punishment is added to decrease behavior. Negative punishment is when something desirable is taken away to decrease behavior. Now let's take a look at some examples. An example for negative reinforcement. Let's say that Homer never takes the rubbish out when it's his turn, and it always creates a really bad smell around the house. Homer then decides to take the rubbish out, starting from his next turn. As a result, Homer and his family no longer have to put up with a really bad smell of rubbish. Let's look at an example for positive reinforcement. Let's say that Bart knows that he will get rewarded if he gets a good grade on his exams. So Bart decides to work hard and achieve a really good grade. As a result, his mum rewards him with a present. Let's take a look at punishment. Imagine that Bart Simpson brings a skateboard to school even though it's not allowed. What if positive punishment was given to Bart? The teacher makes Bart have to repeat a tedious and repetitive task as a punishment. By giving Bart this punishment, as a consequence, it discourages Bart from bringing a skateboard into school again. Now let's think of the same scenario, but what if negative punishment was given to Bart? The teacher instead seizes Bart's skateboard. By the teacher keeping Bart's skateboard, again, as a consequence, Bart is discouraged from bringing the skateboard in again. B.F. Skinner presented operant conditioning by carrying out several experiments on animals. He used the Skinner box created by himself for his experiment on rats. So here we can see the rat on an electric grid used to send electric currents. Then there is the lever, which when pressed drops the food from the pellet dispenser into the food cup. It can also switch the electric current off. The lights are used as a warning and are switched on before the electric current is sent. And here is the experiment. Positive reinforcement was demonstrated when a hungry rat was put in the Skinner box, and running about, it would accidentally knock the lever. Food would then drop into the container. The rats learnt to go straight to the lever and press it in order to get food. This rewarding consequence strengthened the behavior so that the rats repeated the action again and again. During negative reinforcement, a rat was put in the Skinner box and was exposed to discomforting electric currents. While the rat ran about, it would knock the lever, which would stop the electric current. The rats learnt to go straight to the lever and press it to switch off the electric current. This removal of the unpleasant electric current made the rats repeat the action again and again. Adding on to this experiment, Skinner decided to turn on a light before the current was switched on. This warned the rats about the electrical current. They learnt to press the lever when the light came on. So now that we've understood operant conditioning, why is it so important? Well, operant conditioning explains a wide variety of behaviours in learning process by helping us understand the relations between a behaviour and its consequence. It also has many applications in everyday life, such as in an educational context to solve issues of class and student management. Also in the army, where reinforcement and punishment are used for discipline, or in business to increase productivity with, for example, incentives. It is also used in token economy, where targeted behaviours are reinforced with tokens and later exchanged for rewards. This is useful in classrooms, prisons, and with psychiatric patients. I would like to conclude by saying thanks for watching and goodbye.
Okay. So let's go over B.F. Skinner a little bit, or let's go over actually operant conditioning. So we're talking about learning, right? So learning occurs when an action becomes associated with the consequence. So when we use the term consequence, we're talking about either a reward or punishment. So it's a little bit different. It's a reward or a punishment system, which is different than the classical conditioning. So you know that reinforcers are consequences that increase the likelihood of a behavior recurring. So that is a reward, obviously, right? So Skinner taught animal behavior through what he called successive approximations. Basically, that means small steps to get to where you need to be, which is another term for shaping. Have you guys heard of the term shaping? So if you're trying to teach someone to play basketball, are you going to put them at the half court and have them just throw the ball? No, because they're not going to learn that way. So you have them underneath the net, and they would get good at making baskets from 2 feet, and then you'd move back to 4 feet and have them make baskets, and then move them back another 2 feet. That's called shaping. You are taking small steps to get to the behavior that you would want, in this case, basketball, but it's got to do with all learning. So you heard these terms, positive reinforcement and negative reinforcement. And so you also heard the terms about punishment. So positive reinforcement, anytime that you talk about positive and negative, positive means you add something, negative means you remove something. So for positive reinforcement, something is added to help get to that behavior. So most of the time when we think of positive reinforcement, we talk about adding something. You get a gold star for getting 100 on your test. Your parents give you money for a good report card. Little kids get candy for going on the potty. Those are usually positive reinforcement. But we also use positive reinforcement with tough behaviors too. If you have a kid that is acting out, if you yell at them to stop screaming at you, you are actually reinforcing that behavior because they got what they wanted, which was your attention. So if you ignore that behavior, hopefully they'll stop that behavior. So positive is not, it's most of the time good, but sometimes it can be a positive reinforcement on a negative behavior because you screamed at them, which is what they wanted. They wanted some attention. Negative reinforcement is when you increase a behavior by taking something away. You get in your car and the seatbelt, you didn't put your seatbelt on, so the seatbelt is just dinging and dinging and dinging. That noise is considered negative reinforcement. It is something that's annoying put in by your car manufacturer to have you buckle your seatbelt. So it is negative reinforcement. When you buckle your seatbelt, that annoying sound goes away. So that is a reinforcement. So let's just talk a little bit about punishment. Punishment is used to decrease or stop a behavior. Obviously, there's some sort of consequence that is going to be added to decrease the likelihood of the behavior occurring. So we have positive punishment and negative punishment, the same way you have reinforcements. So positive means to add something, negative means to take something away. Give me an example of positive punishment, though it doesn't sound positive. What would be when you add something to hopefully stop a behavior? It's so hard to do this on Zoom. Somebody tell me positive punishment, which Doesn't sound positive, but it's adding something so you stop a behavior. What do parents do with their little children very often?
The phone.
Yeah.
The phone, did you say?
Yeah, like the phone.
Okay, nope. So with the phone, that would be negative punishment because they would take away your phone. So positive is adding something, negative is taking away. So when we take away your phone, or you're in timeout, or you're grounded, that is considered negative punishment because we're taking something away. What would be adding something? Go ahead, Isaiah.
I would say maybe putting them in timeout.
Nope, that's taking away.
What about cleaning the room?
Say that one more time.
So if you do something wrong, your parents make you clean the room?
Sure, you might get a punishment added. They might spank. We know that, a lot of parents spank their young children to try and teach them not to do something again. You guys go through positive punishment if you get a ticket for speeding, right? The concept is that you are getting a fine for speeding, which you don't want to have to pay this ticket because it's a lot of money. So maybe you won't speed again if you get this ticket. So do you understand the difference between positive and negative? Positive means you add something. Negative means you take it away. So I know it sounds crazy to call spanking positive punishment because it's been proven that children that are spanked often have future aggression on their children. So it's not something ever advocated, but believe it or not, it's considered positive punishment. All right, let's watch this YouTube from Big Bang about operant conditioning.
See the video's logo right here? Well, instead of that, you just drop in your own
Sorry,
logo. It used to
ads.
be that if you wanted this level of professional quality, you'd either have to pay a professional editor or buy expensive software and
I think you can skip it.
teach yourself how to use it. But not anymore. Videos lets you mix stunning animations.
Sorry, I didn't see the skip
Are you
ads.
finished? Well, thank you. How thoughtful. Would you like a chocolate? Yeah, sure.
Thanks. Oh, sorry, Sheldon. I almost sat in your spot.
Did you? I didn't notice. Have a chocolate.
Thank you.
You're here a lot now.
Oh, am I talking too much? I'm sorry. Zip.
Thank you. Chocolate?
Yes, please. Oh, hey, Kim. Yeah, you know what? Hold on. Let me take this in the hall. You'll never get somebody back to a place.
Okay. I know what you're doing. Really?
Yes. You're using chocolates as positive reinforcement for what you consider correct behavior.
Very good. Chocolate?
Sheldon, you can't train my girlfriend like a lab rat.
Actually, it turns out I can.
Well, you shouldn't.
There's just no pleasing you, is there, Leonard? You weren't happy with my previous approach to dealing with her, so I decided to employ operant conditioning techniques, building on the works of Thorndike and B.F. Skinner. Yet by this time next week, I believe I can have her jumping out of a pool, balancing a beach ball on her nose.
No, this has to stop now.
I'm not suggesting we really make her jump out of a pool. I thought the bazinga was implied. We're just tweaking her personality. It's sanding off the rough edges, if you will.
No, you're not sanding any.
Are you saying that I am forbidden from applying a harmless, scientifically valid protocol that will make our lives better?
Yes, you're forbidden.
Bad, Leonard. You know, using positive reinforcement techniques, I could train that behavior out of her in a week.
No.
If you let me use negative reinforcement, I can get it done before we go to bed.
You're not squirting her in the face with water.
No, of course not. We're talking very mild electric shocks. No tissue damage whatsoever.
Forget it.
Oh, come on. You can't tell me that you're not intrigued about the possibility of building a better girlfriend.
I'm not. Penny's qualities, both good and bad, are what make her who she is.
You mean like that high-pitched, irritating laugh?
Yes.
You wouldn't prefer a throaty chuckle?
You're not changing how Penny laughs.
No, that would be incongruous. I was going to lower the whole voice to a more pleasing register.
Oh, sorry, guys. That girl is freaky.
Come again?
Freaky.
Freaky?
Yeah, freaky.
Have a chocolate.
Thank you.
Well, I'm going to make some warm milk and then turn in. I trust if you two are planning on engaging in amorous activities, you'll keep the decibel level to a minimum.
Of course.
Thank you.
These are so good.
Unbelievable.
If you are not a nudist, status for you.
Okay, so you basically saw Sheldon using operant conditioning to change Penny's behavior. There's an example right there. So the last type of learning that we should discuss, which is kind of two types of learning, is observational learning. And observational learning is a learning that occurs as a result of watching the behaviors of others. And children basically grow up with observational learning, both good and bad, as you know, right? And they did an experiment on this observational learning to see many years ago. It was called the Bobo doll experiment and Bandora. And what he did was he had these children in a room, an adult came in, and it was a doll that was inflatable and it could go down and up. And as you hit it, it would pop back up. So an adult came in and hit the Bobo doll a couple times and then walked out. And of course, the kids right away ran over and aggressed on this Bobo doll. And it was just proof that children imitate behavior of their parents. So good behavior and bad behavior. Aggression is something that children observationally learn. So that, you know, today actually translates to, is there a link between media and violence? And there is a link between these Xbox games and all of these games that are on the market that these kids are playing. Right now, children spend, and this isn't even in pandemic times, this is prior to pandemic, that children spent about 7 hours a day on some form of media. So if a child is spending 7 hours a day on some form of media, not during pandemic times, I'm sure that has quadrupled, but if the average is 7 hours a day, then they are observationally learning these behaviors. So if a young impressionable child is playing Grand Theft Auto at a very young age, they're being exposed to behaviors that they would not normally be exposed to. They are playing these games where they are killing people, and they're desensitizing to what feelings would normally come with killing somebody. So there is a link between media and violence. It's been proven. The same goes with pro-social behaviors, the good stuff. If kids are exposed to actions that are kind and generous and beneficial to others, then those children are going to want to emulate those same behaviors. So it works with good and bad. When I say the term model or modeling, you think of people on a catwalk showing off clothes and stuff like that. But really, children are taking their cues from models, whether it is the parent, whether it is the media that they're on, their Grand Theft Auto, whatever it is modeling. That's the term, modeling. And sometimes learning happens without effort, and that is called latent learning. I don't know if this is showing up. When I write on here, is it backwards for you? When I write this word latent?
No.
Okay, good. Thank you. Okay, so latent learning is the term for the type of learning that occurs without awareness and without reinforcement. No, you're not even aware that it's learning, and you're not even reinforcing the behavior. So let me give you an example on latent learning. Mom makes pancakes every single Saturday for little Sally. And so on Saturdays, Sally comes into the kitchen and she watches Mom make pancakes every single Saturday for like 2 years. And then one Saturday, Mom isn't feeling well. And Sally goes into the kitchen and all of a sudden she knows how to make pancakes. Nobody ever taught her. No, there was no reinforcement like, oh, good job putting the mix in with the water and stirring. There was no reinforcement, but all of a sudden, Sally knows how to make these pancakes. So latent learning is not evident until it is needed. So in other words, that she doesn't even know she knows how to make pancakes until she has to make pancakes. So Tolman uses this word cognitive map. Cognitive map is a term for a mental representation of your environment. Your cognitive map. So if you were driving, now a lot of you are freshmen, so you might not know the answer to this, but if you were going to Middlesex County College, and the way that you always went into Middlesex County College was on Woodbridge Avenue, where you go past the police station and then you might the right or the left with Raritan Hall in front of you, and you have to go to college one day and the entrance to the college on Woodbridge Avenue is closed. Do you not go to school? I know a few of you might turn around and go home, but a good percentage of you would say, there has to be another way to get into the college. So you drive a little bit further and you get to a light and you make a left and you go down the street to enter in the back way, back by Crabiel Hall. Now you've never done that before, but you take your chance on knowing there has to be another way to get into the college. So now you've entered this way by Crabiel, and you've got to figure out how to get to your class. Your class might be in Lamadou Hall, let's just say, or Main Hall. You're going to use your cognitive map, which is going to mentally represent Middlesex County College to try and get to the class. And so you are going to just drive on the outskirts of the college until maybe you get to something that you recognize. Let's just say it might be the back of the college center or the performing arts center. And you're like, okay, wait, I think I know where I am now. Main Hall is right past there. So let me just keep driving on that street and I'll get to Main Hall because I recognize this. This is you using your cognitive map. You did not go to your first day of college classes and walk around the campus and go, okay, I'm going to commit this map to memory in case I ever need it. You're just not going to do that. But because you have been learning by coming to the campus, you can figure it out using the cognitive map, the mental representation. So Tolman proved this by putting rats in one of those mazes where they get to the end and there's a piece of cheese. And so the first time, of course, the rat is trying to make its way around and it takes a while and it gets to the cheese. And then the second time the rat is in there, it takes a little bit less time. And after a couple tries, that rat knows exactly how to go, and it takes him seconds to get to that piece of cheese because he's got the mental representation of that maze. He's got his cognitive map and he knows exactly where to go to get that cheese. That is not something that you're making effort to learn. It just happens. It's part of latent learning. It's part of that learning that occurs without reinforcement and without awareness. Another type of latent learning or observational learning was a guy named Kohler who did an experiment with monkeys, and he put monkeys in a cage and he hung bananas high from the ceiling, and the things that were in his in the cage were some boxes and sticks. And so the monkeys were just hanging around in the cage and looking up at the bananas going, how do we get these bananas down? How do we get them down? And they thought and they thought and they figured out if they stack the boxes and use the stick, they can get those bananas down. And they did it one time. Wasn't a trial and error. It was what's known as insight, the aha moment when you figure it out and you can do it. So they did not use trial and error. They used insight. They thought about it, and they came up with the way to do it, the way to get those bananas down. So that was Kohler's experiment. So that was a different type of learning. It was no reward and punishment. It was not conditioning or changing behavior. It was not even observational learning. So so these are your major types of things to do with learning. I'm going to get off of this. I'm going to stop sharing, and then we're going to discuss. So ask me questions about learning. This is your first go at the first chapter with learning. So do you have any questions about anything that you saw today with the videos and stuff? Or any of the terms you want me to repeat? Or
I have a question.
Yes.
You talked about a term called modeling, but I didn't quite get the definition of it.
So modeling is all part of observational learning. So parents are models, video games are models, whatever this child, or it could be an adult, is seeing around them for modeling is changing their behavior because of what they see. And again, it could be good behavior, it could be pro-social behavior where you're kind to others, or it could be antisocial behavior where you're mean to others, or you're learning violence or, you know, aggression from your parents or other people.
Thank you.
Sure. Anybody else?
I have a question.
Sure.
So, spontaneous recovery, does it necessarily have to be, to go back to the dog meat salivating example, does the meat have to be reintroduced for that spontaneous recovery, or can the bell just ring, they revert back, and then so it's not random, like there has to be the meat reiterated into the experiment?
Yes. The meat has to be brought back, because what happens is the dog has no real motivation to salivate, and it starts to wane. When they take away the meat, then that response starts to go away. That's the term waning, when the behavior starts to go away. And so when they reintroduce the meat, the dog, because a dog normally salivates to meat, it's not a conditioned thing, that's unconditioned response. A dog salivates to meat, just like you might salivate to your favorite food. So it just happens. So the meat has to be reintroduced for the behavior of salivation to start again. And then it comes back like that, spontaneous recovery.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Is our homework only on classical conditioning, like this, like unconditioned stimulus, or is it on, oh, it's on all of them?
All of them. It says, it talks about classical, operant, and the other types of learning. It actually says on the discussion, the homework. So you're going to like kind of equate it. Your discussion is kind of stuff that you know in real life that have to do with classical conditioning, operant conditioning. Look, it's very applicable. Who teaches their dog to roll over and you know, do tricks and stuff? You're using that stuff in everyday life. You're Amy, you have many children. I am sure that you use reward and punishment big time with your fam.
Yes.
Right? Am I right?
Most of the time, yes.
Yeah. So, you know, these are very applicable. We're talking in psychology class about big terms like operant conditioning and stuff like that, but we do it all the time. We do it with our pets. We do it with our kids. We do it with our parents, you know? Our parents are annoying us. We tune them out, right? It happens. We do it all the time. And we also learn from our parents. And you guys are adult enough to know what good stuff you took away from your parents and what bad stuff you took away from your parents, right? You all got good and bad. There's stuff, your mother's super emotional. She cries at the drop of a hat. You're like, oh, I'm not being that emotional. There's no way I'm going to be like that, you know? Any other questions? Everybody's good? Okay, excellent. So you guys have your chapter to do. Hopefully you'll do pretty well on understanding the stuff in the chapter, because I gave you like the outline of the stuff that you're going to learn about, so you'll know about that. And then you're going to quiz on it. You get the chance of taking the quiz twice. So when you take the quiz, review what you got wrong, go back to the chapter and review it. It tells you what you got wrong the first time. And then review that stuff and then take the quiz again, and it takes your highest of your two. So definitely relearn. It's a way of really boosting your grade, and then do the homework. It's not hard. This is the way the semester, this is your first week of what the real semester is going to look like. Cool? Everybody thumbs up? All right. Have a good week. I'll see you next Tuesday. Email me if you have any questions, okay? Bye.
Have a good
See you
weekend.
next
Have a good day.
Bye. Have a good one.
Have a good day.
Ask a question, go.
Yes. This is Evelyn.
Excuse me?
This is Evelyn.
Hi, Evelyn.
Hi, I emailed you last night.
Yes, I never got, I emailed you back. I did not get any accommodations.
Not yet, but I didn't see your, oh no. And then, you know, like I was able to do only the 5 videos. And I answered the question, but you know, like when I tried to do my introduction, it blocked me, you know, like.
Oh, because you're late. That's why.
Yeah, but I was, you know, like the thing is that I have to, while I was watching the video, I went back again, you know, like to see, and I was in the learning process.
What I'm going to do, Evelyn, what I'm going to do is I'm going to open it up till Thursday. So you'll have till Thursday to do all of that stuff. Now, nobody's going to answer your discussion board game because it's already passed.
Okay.
You know, so they're not going back in. So you're just going to have to do the 3 parts, which is 4 posts. You're going to have to do all those.
4 posts? 4?
It's actually 4 posts. The first post is a discussion about yourself. The second part is 2 posts on other people. And the third post is answering what somebody's going to write on yours, but nobody's going to write on yours. So just write on it so that way I can grade you. So I will open it back up till Thursday so that you can do it since you just joined us. And I'll open up the other quizzes, the other videos and quizzes and stuff so you can get credit.
I did the 5 videos. It was only the 5 videos?
5
yeah,
videos, yeah. And there were a couple other things that weren't graded that you should go through, but it's all closed now because it's done. Okay. So I got to open it back up. So I will open it back up and I will put the date of the 17th on there so that you have a couple days to do it, okay?
Thank you very much. It's because I have to go, you know, back and forward to see, and then I'm using my magnifier to see the computer because if not, you know, like a Zoom text and everything is getting big. So I lost everything is projecting with the, you know, like by the videos and stuff like that. But thank you very much. And thank you for, you know, letting me join the class also. It was a week and I was scared because I know it's too much information. And,
you didn't miss much. The first week was very mellow about what we were doing going forward. I mean, we're learning together. This is the first time I've ever taught a remote live. So I don't know. I'm sitting in my, you know, my house. That's my closet, my junk, you know, it's very weird. So we're learning together. So it's fine. You'll be caught up after Thursday and you'll just work on the rest of the stuff and you'll be fine.
Okay, and I was confused in late learning, like late learning?
Latent learning, L-A-T-E-N-T, latent learning. Latent learning is when you don't need it and there's no reinforcement, but you suddenly have it. So that's what latent means. Latent means for that it's kind of suppressed till you need it.
Okay. Okay.
It's all going to be in the chapter though. I'm not teaching you anything that isn't in the chapter. So you're going to see it all in the chapter.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Sure.
Thank you. When I write everything in capital letter, but it's okay with you because so I can see what I'm writing.
What do you mean? I'm sorry. I don't know.
You know, like when I'm writing my introduction, everything that I sent to you,
Yeah.
typing. When I'm typing in capital letter.
That's
always.
fine. That's totally
It's okay?
fine. Yeah, that's
Oh.
totally fine.
You know, I know that means that you screaming, that you loud, and I was like, okay.
Not a problem. Not a problem at all. It's all good.
Okay.
Good. Okay, so do your work. I will open that up now, okay?
Okay.
All right.
Thank you very much. God bless you. Have a nice day.
You too.
Bye.
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 I need.
Hello.
Huh?
Hi.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Hi, it's Natalia.
Hi, Natalia.
So I bought the activation code for the. I'm having problem with that. I don't know exactly how to do it.
Okay, so the activation code goes in when you're taking the quizzes. It'll ask for the activation code. So you'll see, it'll ask you for it. But how come you didn't do the discussion boards or anything, Natalia? Because you don't need activation.
So the thing is that yeah, I know, but I was having problems with my computer.
Okay, so in the future.
And so you see.
So in the future, let me know, because just like Evelyn joined, I can work stuff so that, you know, you're not locked out, but you didn't let me know and now it's too late. But, you know, you should let me know.
Yeah, the thing is that, yeah, my computer was acting up, and then I missed 2 of your classes, I believe, or 1 of your classes. I don't know. I'm not sure.
Only
But,
one, the first class?
Just 1, yeah. I missed. Okay, yeah, I missed 1 of your classes, and then like I tried, but I just got into work this morning, and I was having problems this morning too because my password for Canvas had expired, and so I forgot. So I totally forgot about that too, and I was having problems logging into Canvas. And so when I logged in, I went into my first class and then directly here. And so yeah, that's what I'm letting you know right now about the activation.
All right. So
yeah.
So I can't do anything about going backwards on this stuff, but if you have problems in the future, you know, definitely let me know. There were a couple people that had issues and I was able to help them through. So, you know, communication's key here. I can change dates and do stuff for you if you have problems, okay?
Okay.
Thankfully, it's very small. Yeah.
So I'm sorry?
I said, thankfully, the first chapter was minimal. Very, very minimal.
Yeah. So for the quiz, like, I have to wait until I have a quiz and then put my activation code, or do I already have a quiz then?
No, when you go through it, you're going to read the chapter, and then when you get to the quiz, it asks for an activation code. So you can do like the first 2 or 3 without the code, but then you need the code. So you'll be able to put it in this week when you do the chapter. Of course, my cat's walking in front of the camera.
And the chapter is the modules?
No, learning. We're on chapter 2, learning.
Learning?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay?
Okay.
And let me know if you have a problem. Let me know if you have a problem, okay?
Okay. Learning is on Canvas?
I'm sorry, say that one more time.
Learning is on Canvas?
It's week number 2 on the syllabus and on the module.
Okay.
Yeah, so go on Canvas and then go through the home. It's week number 2. You saw it. I showed it when I shared my screen.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Sure. Have a great week. I'll see you next Tuesday.
You too.
Bye.